I am so excited to be here at the inaugural DynamicsCon, all virtual, all free event. I want to just make sure before I take some time to be a little vain and tell a little bit about myself, to thank everyone for participating, for being here today, and for voting. I wouldn't have the chance to be here and share some cool things about Business Central if you didn't vote for me. Sit back, relax. We're going to talk about a few things Business Central. My name is Shawn Dorward. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I'm super excited to be here at DynamicsCon virtual. I hate that we're not interacting in real life. That's really, really important to me. But hey, we have to do what we have to do during these times. So very, very excited. I am a practice manager at Dynamic Consulting, and I've been in this space for about 22 years in the GP world, and a few years ago branched out into the Navision and Business Central space. I write about my life hacks or tips and tricks, if you will, at lifehacks365.com. I also am in one of the trio and a podcast, mbspodcast.com. My friends Mark and Belinda and I talk about all kinds of silly stuff, and we have a good time doing it. You can follow me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, all that cool stuff. What else? Anybody? Okay, virtual high five. Let's get to it. We have some things to talk about, so let's do it. So I don't have an agenda slide, because really, who looks at an agenda slide? I know they say you should have one, but let's just talk this through. So I'm going to go through some things that I feel like when I work with customers, that these things that they don't know, they're gold to them when someone tells them. And that's what my mission is here today. Even if you just pick up one thing or have a good time throughout, I think that is a win for everyone. So first thing up is zoom in, zoom out. I have my glasses here. My wife said don't wear them. It doesn't look good on camera. My eyes aren't as good as they used to. And zooming in and zooming out in many applications, at Outlook and Teams, etc., is really, really helpful. If I just hop over into Business Central and I do two things, I can use my keyboard, the control and the plus sign, just like any other web browser experience, and make that larger for me. It's a little bit of a dynamic orientation on there, so you can see it resetting itself and trying to put things in a good order for us. So get it to a good, comfortable size for you. I like it, a little bit zoomed in. You can also use the control and the scrolling wheel on your mouse if your keyboard is set up to typical settings. So that's a really, really cool one. I'm gonna just quickly open up. I'm in, what am I in? I'm in Firefox here in my web browser. Naturally, you probably are aware that you can use a tablet or your mobile device, but you may not know about the Windows app. This is free in the Microsoft Store. Business Central, just search for it, it's free. You use the same credentials to authenticate. It is the exact same experience. Well, not quite exact. And what I mean by that is it doesn't have the URL bar at the top. It doesn't have all of our favorites, our little side panel, Twitter running, our Twitter feed and our Facebook feed running. It's really just the app focused on there. So this is the app, and I'm just gonna hop over into chart of accounts just by clicking that. So I get the same experience. I'm gonna maximize it so you can see. The same thing here is true in the app, control and zoom with my mouse to change the size. So I wanted to share that little bonus tip, if you will, because folks do like that a lot from what I see. It makes them feel like they're in the application itself rather than out on a web browser. And sometimes the web browser takes a little bit too much of the resources from the computer you're on. Even though this is SaaS, I still think there's some benefit in maybe considering to use this. But to that, later, some other life hacks, maybe you might reconsider and want to use the browser, because I'm going to show you some cool tips there. So that's the Zoom. Let's throw that away. Let's hop back over to our slides here real quick. So zoom in, zoom out. Those are actual screenshots you see there. So it is really helpful. If you have good eyes or you want more things on your screen, you can certainly do so. We'll talk more about how to personalize things as well. I want to talk about company badges. I work with a lot of businesses that have many companies in their Business Central environment, and that is awesome, but it can be confusing. So if you look up in the top left, we see the company name. but it's black, it's text, it sort of blends in. What environment am I in? Am I in my sandbox? Am I in production? If I'm on a web browser, I can see some indicators in my URL for which environment I'm in, but in the app that I just showed you over there, it's not as obvious because you don't see the URL. So we can do something called company badge. So I'm just going to go into the company card. I'm using my search and I'm going to go to company information. Here in company information, let me maximize that joker. And I'm going to scroll down. I could change a lot of stuff in here. I'm going to use the power of my hands. I'm going to scroll down. It was my mouse. Anyway, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, company badge right here. I'm going to change this to custom. I can pick a color. Let's just choose the bright purple. And we have 4 digits here we get to identify this company. We'll just call it, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4 will be created. So now I have a company badge set. I'm saved. I'm going to leave the window. What's going to probably happen is it says, hey, you made a change to the UI. We're going to want to refresh the screen. There we go. And we'll say, okay, let it refresh. Only takes a second, pretty snappy. Get back into Business Central, and now on the top right, we see a color-coded indicator for what company we're in. Why is that important? Well, a couple different reasons. One, now I'll see that in the app, which is kind of cool because I won't have the URL. But also, if you look at this window right here that I'm on, I don't see that text version that is out on my role center or my homepage. So I don't know without looking in my URL and seeing what company I'm in. Now I can see that. But what else is really cool about this is I can click on it and it tells me the company name and which environment I'm in. So if you've got a sandbox environment and a production environment, a sneak peek on some fall releases, I heard or I read on the website that Microsoft is going to create some sort of, or remove the restriction on the counts. So you can have multiple sandbox environments and multiple production environments, which is pretty cool. But anyway, I digress. Let me focus. What was I saying? Oh yeah, now I know what environment I'm in. And that's really cool, especially in diverse organizations where we have perhaps a sandbox for development purposes and production. I have done this myself. If you have done it, you know the pain. But the last thing you want to do is reconcile a bank account or a GL account and chase your tail all to find out you're in the wrong environment. It's happened to me. Hopefully it hasn't happened to you. That's the company badge. Pretty cool. All right, so let's take a look at what's next. Company badge, that's a win. Pop out pages. Hey, you don't want to put too many O's in the word pop. I'm just saying. Pop out pages. What is great about this, speaking of bank reconciliation, I hear you laughing. Speaking of bank reconciliation, if you've ever done a bank reconciliation before, you're going to totally appreciate this. One screen is absolutely never enough. In fact, it's never enough for anything we do anymore. But doing a bank rec, we have our work on one side of the screen or one monitor, and the details of that work somewhere else. And so if we come into, let's just look at, we'll take a shortcut through the chart of accounts to take a look at our checking account general ledger entries here. So let me get rid of the fact boxes. Whoosh. Or is it reverse on video? I don't know. Get rid of the fact box. And what was I saying? I got a little lost in my silly humor. Oh yeah, the popping out of the window. So now if I want to work on my bank rec or any kind of reconciliation, this is just an example. We can come up here to the top right and choose pop out. And this takes that window and puts it in its own free floating window where we can change the size. Maybe we want to come up and put that somewhere while we're looking at other things, or maybe just on another monitor. That's popping out the window. Simple, but beautiful. I love it. Certainly we can use multiple tabs. All right, so if we come up, actually, I don't think that one will dock, but we can open up Business Central in another tab as well. But it's nice to kind of see them floating at the same time so we can check what we need to check in our reconciliation with that information open. All right, so let's go back and see what's next. Notification settings. Whew, this one. So we get notified for all kinds of things. Here I have some smart currency updates. We're on a trial of this. We didn't run the forecaster. We have low inventory. Whatever it is, we get these notifications. Sometimes they're really helpful. Sometimes they're really annoying. I know it. You know it. Don't tell Microsoft. But let's go into my notifications. Now in my notifications, this is a list of all the notifications that are set up, and we can just simply come in and remove the checkbox on enable, and then we'll no longer get that notification. On the other side of that, if you inadvertently removed one and you find value in that, you come back in and check the box and you're good to go. That's pretty cool. A nice little gem. Speaking of, let me go ahead and put that back and we'll see what's next on our list. Notification settings. Outlook to the rescue. Here's another one. This is one that I love showing folks because in talking this through, because often we're talking about it as a Microsoft Gold partner. Often we're talking about it on the entry of an engagement, but then we really don't bring it into the business process after implementation. So here's a chance to take something big home with you, or you're probably at home already, but to the office or through Teams with you that I think will really help. And this is the Outlook add-ins. So you can install the Outlook add-in for Business Central. It gets docked up in your ribbon as Contact Insights and New. Now, if you don't know how to take care of installing the add-in, I put a link here, which I believe maybe you get that link. But if you don't know how to do it, you could simply go to the Docs website to find out how to get it. It's free. You should be able to do it without your IT folks. But I'm going to show you just some of what can happen in Outlook with the add-in for Business Central. Now, I have a little bit of ADHD in me, and I get distracted kind of easily. Don't tell anyone. So I like to minimize those distractions, and I think this is one of those great ways that would be really helpful for me, and that's another reason why I like showing it. So I got an email from a customer or a vendor, and I can come up to Contact Insights and open up the Business Central add-in right within Outlook. So this is the same data, there's no delay, none of that stuff. I can even just say, hey, they want to buy a generator, I can create a sales order right from here. If this email address had matched my contact, it would have, or didn't have duplicates, it would have auto-associated it with a particular contact. So I'm just going to pick one. So I'm going to say, hey, we're going to work with this contact. Now look at that. You know, that's pretty fantastic. We see all of our tiles, all of our metrics, even the color cues and indicators. And they're not just there for us to see the numbers. We can click and drill through that data to see the actual data that supports those numbers. So we can make decisions right from within Outlook about the activity coming through our email. Also, we can go and just do, like I said, a sales order. So here I'm going to say sales order. Also, what we can do is just come up here to new and go to sales order. We can do this for a vendor to create an invoice. We can communicate, we could create the sales order and send them off an email right from within Outlook, and even post the transactions from here. We don't even have to go out into the web browser or into the app to initiate those transactions and post them. And it's happening in real time and against the same database. Pretty cool. We don't have to wait for a nightly sync or anything like that. And I can get all of that work done right from within Outlook. And I think that's a big win. I hope you like that. There's a whole lot more to this. If I wanted to see any of the information, I could quickly click. I can even pop this out. So there's an example of a document from Business Central, and it's literally showing me the same information organized and oriented in the same way as I would see out on the browser. Pretty cool. Not only that, but as I said, sending emails, including PDFs of the sales order, for example, directly to your customer. Pretty cool. A big win. Outlook, very underutilized in my opinion. Huge time saver. Check it out. If you need help, you'll get my email after this. I'd love to help you because this is a big one. Let's put it to work. All right, next up, saving filter views. So everything in Business Central, a list, a document, a master record, they're all great, but lists we love, especially those of us in finance. So let's just hop back into the cash account we were looking at earlier. And we can take this and we can filter this. So I'm going to filter it and I can say, let me just filter to this date or to this value that I have highlighted, which is 331. It's going to drop in those automatically for me. Now, let's just say that I want to do, we'll get rid of the GL account and we'll do everything from January 1st, 2019. Why not 2020? Because nobody wants to remember 2020. Let's be honest. Let's just, 2019, 2021. Let's just do it. We're going to do 2019. We'll just do the month of January. We'll hit tab. Boom. My list is filtered. Now I want to save this because I don't want to have to keep doing those. Even though that was a small step, I don't want to have to keep doing that each time. All I have to do is come up here, go to save, and I'll just use my initials. Nope, let's do something better. Shawn rocks. Shawn rocks. Now that's my list. Right there it is. Give myself a little attaboy, and now I have this list real easy, no problems. By the way, if you didn't know, the filter is not just one field. I've seen folks struggle with that, so you can use, let's just grab another one. So we'll just grab and we'll pick from another. That'll probably give us nothing, but you get the idea. More than one field is available. We'll just undo that. And that's a little bit about saving filter views. List views, call it what you want. I like to call them smart lists, but hey, that's just me being the old GP guy, I guess. Anyway, let's see what's next. Personalizing your screen. Wow, this is too cool. And I really mean that. It still blows my mind that what we're gonna go through and I'm gonna show you is in a web browser. And so what I want to talk about here, couple things. Personalization. Personalization. So making the user interface your own. What is good for you? And when you make these changes, it's only for you, which is awesome. The only thing I want to throw in there before I show you this is a little bit of a warning that if you're going to take screenshots for procedure manuals, now let's be honest, not very many people do procedure manuals anymore, but those of you that do, if you're going to do this, be a little cautious because your screen that you're taking screenshots with or from may not be the same as everyone else's. Okay, so let's see what this does. We're gonna go over into sales orders. And in sales orders, this beautiful list, look at my beautiful list. Isn't it such a beautiful list? Here's my sales order. Sales orders. So I've got my sales order number on the left-hand side, and I've got some information that is over here to the right. We see that, and maybe I've got some fields here that I just don't use. And if I take just a few minutes of time on each of these windows, Business Central remembers all of my preferences from the last time I was in here, and which I think is pretty awesome. So what I want to do is clean this up and personalize it. So I'm going to come up to the gear. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the gear and I'm going to go to personalize. This opens up in the browser a personalization little ribbon there, and here we get some red bars and some indicators here. So here's where we can click on this field. If we don't want this field, we can say hide. Bye-bye. Location code, I don't use it on this list. Let's get rid of it. But now I'm going to look at this other field. So I'm making it my own a little bit more, right? I'm going to get rid of that one as well. Pretty cool. A little easier. You know, looks just a whole lot better already. But what else I want to do is I want to take this and I'm going to look at the available fields. I would like to see posting date in here. Now I'm in the non-posted sales orders, so that I would also like to see, let's just grab this one. What else? The build to, let's drop that one on there. Okay, so now here's my list. This is my perfect list. I'm gonna hit done. It gets rid of my personalization ribbon, gets rid of my field list, and here is my list of sales orders. Now, when I come back in here in the sales orders, every time I come in here, for me, when I'm logged in as me, it's going to remember exactly what I just did. Now, let me show you something else. If I slide to the right, crisscross, when I slid over there, I lost my customer name. You see, slide to the right, lost my customer name. So I'm going to go back into personalized mode, and I'm going to change my freeze pane. Sorry, freeze pane. I'm going to change my freeze pane, and I'm going to say set this freeze pane. So now it moves that just like in Excel. So now when I slide to the right, it's going to keep that there for me. Pretty cool. Just another nice little thing about personalizations. So many more things. I'm going to show you one or two more things real quick. So let's go into one of these sales orders. And let's take a look at what's going on in here. So we have our fact boxes, which are right now tucked away. I'm going to open that up. So if I want that open all the time, I'll just open it up. I could do that. That's not part of personalization mode, but still it remembers it every time. But let's click on show more here in our header, in our general section. Look at all of our fields. In this fast tab, that's what this area is called here. We could collapse that and see what's risen to the top here. These are the fields that are set to show in our fast tab when we collapse it. So we have three different things. We've got show everything, show less, which is sort of the default. And then if we collapse it, it's pushing those values up there. So I get a lot more room on my screen, which is really cool. So if I do that now, like I said, it's just going to remember that each time. Now, what else I can do is if this is just too much, maybe I want to see this, but I don't need to see the order date and the external document number. So I can go ahead and do that, come into personalize, hide the document number, and hide the order date. They're still there. Everything you hide is still there. It's just not taking up the space for you. What else I could do if I just look at this, I'm not going to show right now, but that show under show more means, hey, it's not the default. You have to click show more, and show when collapsed, that's what puts it up in the fast tab for us. Pretty cool? Awesome. We already talked about that. Let's talk about this cool one. Another small little gem in the personalization that I love showing folks as well. And this is called quick entry. So let's go into purchase orders, and we're just going to take a quick look at purchase order. By the way, if you make all these personalizations to any screen and you just don't like it, maybe you feel like you overdid it somehow, you can just hit this clear personalization. That'll remove and put everything right back to the way it was out of the box, so that you don't have personalization on this page. So now I'm going to go into purchase order, and let's take a look at quick entry. Pretty great stuff here. So if I need to add an inventory item, I'm just going to come down here and choose item, and I'll put television, and I'll pick that, and we'll do quantity of 1. And as I move through here, in order for me to get to the next row, I kind of have to hit down somewhere, but then I have to get all the way back to the beginning where I need to pick up my mouse. Not very efficient. And that's the purpose of quick entry. So let's talk about that for a second. And let's go into personalize. And when we're in personalize here, we can look at each one of these fields. Let me slide back over, and we're going to look at each one of these fields, and we're going to say exclude from quick entry. Okay, so the point of quick entry is that when you hit enter, it's the enter key, not the tab key, that you move only to the fields that you want to move to. So if we exclude that, we'll make sure description's included, so that's set. We'll exclude that. We need quantity, right? We'll leave that direct unit cost, and then we'll just kind of exclude everything else. So I'm gonna just exclude each one of these. Well, there's a lot, but that's okay. All you have to do is just take the minute to get rid of them, and then it's gonna be so much better forever. I didn't realize there was this many. Holy moly. That's okay. We already did that one. I lost track. Okay, I'm hurrying, I promise. Don't rush me. Wow. So, almost there, but you know, I tongue-in-cheek making a joke about it. It takes just a minute to get it set. So now it's set, I can say done. Now when I come in here, I can say on this line, I'll do item, whoops. I'll pick item, and I'm gonna hit enter. I hit enter, it moved me over to description. If I knew how to type, I'm gonna hit enter. It's gonna take me to quantity, hit enter, pieces is right, my unit cost is right. Look what it did. Instead of going all the way through all those fields, it brought me right back down here. And I can even exclude that one if I want. It will be like that every single time now. I put that little bit of work in there to exclude the ones I didn't want. Now I can still use the mouse and drive over there and make changes to it. That's fine. It's just for data entry. Remember, that is the enter key, not the tab. Some folks give it a shot and then they use the tab and then they feel like they didn't do a good job, but it is the enter key. So let's see what's next. Modify posted descriptions. Oh boy. So this one's fun. So yeah, ADHD, but also maybe a little OCD. If something is spelled wrong, and I'm a terrible speller, which is probably why I like this one myself, because then I don't feel as embarrassed. Or if it's just inappropriately or inadequately named, when something hits the general ledger, it's there and it's on your reports and it's in all your lists. And if you need to make a change to it, you can do that. So maybe you didn't know that was the case, but you can do that. And this is under, let's go into general ledger entries. So I'm going to come into Business Central, go to the search for general ledger entries. There we go. And in general ledger entries, here's where I have the ability to change the posted description. Now, you may be thinking this already, but just to kind of get ahead of that, this does keep an audit log. There is values do get added to the change log in the background that you can report on if you ever needed to, which is kind of cool. So we can come in here. If I come in here, this is why you may not know it's an option. If I come in here, it doesn't seem like I can do anything, but if I hit edit list, now it opens up and it lets me change the description. Note, just the description. I knew you were gonna ask. I knew it. I knew you were gonna. I knew it. I knew it. Anyway, just the description. So we could change the description to something awesome. And now it's saved, and now that's the description for that transaction. Really, really helpful. Maybe you won't need it all that often, but it is an option and it does create a log entry. So if you're not familiar with that, that's under the change log. So here's the change log entry list. And there's a lot of stuff in here just from me using this environment. But that is where you would find and drill into that information. Pretty cool. All right, let's go. What's next? Skipping zero balance lines. I love this. We have old accounts in our system. Maybe they were used up until 2017 and we're running a P&L for 2018 or something of that nature. This is kind of hidden a little bit in my opinion. So I wanted to just show that. Okay, so this is kind of hidden in my opinion. So let me show you. I'm gonna hop over into Business Central and I'm gonna open up account schedules. And here we go. So when I come into account schedules, take a look here. This is normally what folks see. I'm gonna pick my account schedule layout, my column layout, give it my date parameters. But if I click show more and I go all the way to the bottom, that's where the option is for skipping zero balance lines. You're welcome. Okay, so let's see what's next. Posting in bulk. Oh, this is awesome. And I literally just showed someone this about a week and a half ago, which is why it's in here, because I'm going to show you how to post in bulk. There's a couple different things to this that you need to know about, but I thought it'd be good to just get started here. So if I use the vertical 3 dots here, I can look and see select more. So I'm going to select this one. Now this is a purchase order. And if you go in to open the purchase order and you go to post, you have to select all these options. You have to wait for it to churn, and then it creates a file. And then you go to the next one and you have to do the same thing. And that's what this individual was doing. And they were showing me that some postings were taking a little longer than other postings. It was actually it was noticeable, but it was more because of the amount of lines that were in the document itself. But coming back to the point here was I asked why they didn't use posting in bulk, and they weren't aware of it. So here we are. So I picked my first one. I'm going to pick additional ones. I could pick them all. This is true in other areas as well. And I'm just going to come up to posting, and I could choose post and print. I'm going to choose post batch, because what's cool about this is you can also set this so that it processes in the background, so it doesn't interfere with the end user's experience, and you don't have to wait for it. And if there's errors, it puts it in an error log, and you can even have the PDF generated to your report inbox, which is pretty cool. But we're gonna just do it like this. So I've got 5 selected, and I'm gonna say we're gonna receive and invoice them, and that's it. That's all I'm gonna say here for now, and we'll just hit post. And now I can wait it out. Doesn't take too long. That's 5, but not so bad. I got an error. I can go fix my errors. But remember, you could do this in a schedule, which is really, really cool. So be sure to take advantage of that. That's journal entry, sales orders, you name it, posting in bulk. Very, very cool. Let's see what's next. Importing inventory images. This is really cool. I know. You're going to love it too. Let's go into items and take a look at an inventory item. I'm just going to open up the first one. Android device 1, very creative. No picture associated with this item. I can choose picture, and I can take a photo. Maybe, you want to assign a picture of me to this inventory item. That's fine. I can import it just by clicking import and go finding the file out on my computer or SharePoint or wherever that is. Now, what I also can do is if I have a large set of inventory and I'm adding it to the system, or I want to put refreshed or newer, crisper pictures, all I have to do is have my inventory image saved as my inventory item number and then import them in the system. So I'm going to show you that. Let's take a look. I'm going to come out of the inventory card and I'm going to search for imports. I don't remember exactly what it's called. Import item pictures. So here, what the deal is though, is that the image itself has to be named, the item number, and then you zip them up into a zip file. So that's basically what I'm going to do now. I have that. I have 2 items out there. I'm going to go and I'm going to pick my zip file. And there it is. So I have 2 images in there. One is named 001 and 002A, and it found those matches. Really cool because of the naming convention. Zip file, Business Central does all the work, and now all I have to do is import the pictures, and boom, 2 pictures have been added. And if I go over to my items, and I'll look at those items, those 2 items, those pictures will be assigned to those inventory items. That's fantastic. I've done this with about 600 images. Excellent as well. I don't know how it would work with 1,000 or 10,000, but do them in batches if it gives you trouble. But you saw how fast it was for just 2. Pretty cool. I love it. I love it. I love it. What's next? Merging vendors or customers. So this is super powerful. I just can't get over how clean this is and how helpful this is for folks maybe who don't even realize it's there. It's going to change a lot and clean up their customer list. So if you have customers, I hope you have customers. If you have customers in your system, this is true for vendors as well. Okay, so if you have customers in your system, and here I've got Shawn's Cool Company. Too small for you, you say? I'm going to zoom in. Shawn's Cool Company and Shawn's Cool Company spelled the other way. I won't say the wrong way, but the other way. And I need to combine them. They both have transactions. So I'm going to just go into one. I'll pick one. I'm going to come into one. And then I'm going to go to actions, functions, merge with. Actions, functions, merge with. Actions, anyway, merge with. So the one I'm originating this on is where is going to be the one that wins, that stays. So I'm going to merge this with the other one. So that was 20, and I'm going to say merge it with 10. Let it do all the matching, and then I can simply choose merge. Do I want to merge these two records? The step cannot be undone. You've been warned. Yes, I want to merge them. And now all of the transactions for both of those customers are going to live and reside under one. So there we are. 20 was the winner, and that's where all the transactions are. Pretty cool. That also works for vendors as well. So be sure to check that out. Excellent, excellent stuff. Let's talk about the payment predictor. Payment predictor, pretty cool. This is something that you can step your game up a little bit and use Azure if you'd like to have this process run for larger rules and things like that. But out of the box, we can enable this and have it look at our payment terms for the customer and their history and measure whether or not the system thinks there'll be a low, medium, or high risk for them paying. This is under actions and predict payment. So check that out. If you're putting an order in, you want to see what the likelihood is. And this also is a field that can show on your list for payment prediction. Right there in my customer ledger entries, I can see I've got the payment prediction for these were set as on time, but one was a little set low. I'm not sure why. I didn't dig into it, but that's how that works. It's pretty cool. Check it out. I want to tell you about assisted setup and manual setup. Assisted setup, when I talked about that Outlook add-in earlier, it's real easy. I'm going to come into the gear and go to assisted setup. Assisted setup gives me a nice list of things that are available that are wizard based. So I'm going to come down here to set up your business inbox in Outlook. This should be this easy for you as well. I've already done it. Do I want to run it again? I could just hit run again. Fingers crossed that it doesn't have any issues. I'm going to run it from my mailbox, hit next, send a sample message, hit next, and finish. Now, why was that so easy? Because I'm using an account that has been authenticated in Business Central through Office 365. So if I jump over into Business Central or to Outlook, been a long day. Jump over to Outlook, I should see an email come through there from the assisted setup engine configuring my system to Outlook. Mine was already done. That's how we're able to do this cool stuff. But what if you need to change some of this? What if you need to change some of this? There's really not a very explanatory way in here. And that's where comes manual setup. So if I search for manual setup in Business Central, I can go to the manual setup window, list page, and here's a list of all of the setup activities, objects in the system. So I'm just going to search here. I'm just going to search for email. And there's my email. So in the wizard, in the assisted setup, it didn't really give me a chance to remove it. Not that I would necessarily remove this, but now I can because I'm in the actual configuration window, which is pretty cool. So that's a nice little tip. I think some folks may find that helpful. I hope you do. So we're going to talk page inspection real quick. Any page you're on, if you want to know the table or any information about the fields, let's take a look at that. I have the shortcut in here because I can never remember. Control-Alt-F1. So Control-Alt-F1 will pop open the page inspector. It's going to tell me the page and the table and a list of the fields involved in this window. That could be pretty helpful, especially if you're doing like development work or you just want to start to figure out a little bit more about the infrastructure of the system. And we'll talk just briefly about that as we go into our next section. So wanted to point page inspector out, and let's go to the next one. So there's I get asked this all the time. How do I get a list of the tables? Well, it's easy. If you go into your system and you choose table information, and in table information, so easy, here's a list of my tables in my system, and I can go to page and open this in Excel and see all of my tables, and including their number of records and the record size. So I get asked that a lot, wanted to point that out. What's next? Web services. So let's talk about web services, and don't let me lose you on this because it's really cool, especially for anyone that wants to get data out of their system. I might have your attention now. Let's go into web services. Web services, there's a whole lot to talk about here, but I'm just going to focus on something very simple. This is where you can get an OData link, and you can use these OData URLs in Excel or Power BI to access the data from within your system. So let's get a quick one here. We'll go to the top, and we'll do customer cards. So I'm just going to copy this. That's the URL, and I'm going to go into Excel. I'm not going to draw, not yet. I'm going to go to get data, and I'm going to go to other and then OData. And I'm going to paste that URL in here. And what this is going to do, it's going to authenticate the same credentials that I use for Business Central. Doesn't look like I copied it properly, so let me try it by clicking it. This is a little cheat I do. I click it, and then I copy it from the browser if it doesn't want to capture it right. So we'll definitely, that's a great little workaround tip there. Paste that in the OData. It's going to authenticate my user, make sure I'm a valid and authorized person to access this data. And if not, it'll ask you to sign in. And then it's going to load it into Excel. I can save this Excel file. I can pivot, you know, if it was transaction data, I could pivot it, whatever. But let's go into Business Central and I'll show you what I mean. Now this is just a simple customer list, but imagine your general ledger accounts or posted transactions, all those kind of things that you like to pivot and flex and analyze. I'm just going to create a quick new customer, and I'm going to call it even newer customer, and saved, come over into Excel, refresh my data. And this is a live lookup, boom. So there's my even newer customer. And think about this in terms of GL transactions, like I said, posted documents. This is just the customers, not such a bad example, but the power of pivoting and those kind of things. And the same kind of approach for Power BI. So I want you to be sure to check out web services. There are a few that are in there out of the box. However, you can also add your own. And that's what I want to show here. Real easy. You just come into web services and go to new and find your objects. Pretty simple, but powerful. I love this because I get quick, easy access to those pages that I use the most, like the navigation page. How about just adding a shortcut to that window instead of having to go find it every time? Check it out, real easy to do, just a little tip. I think I have one more. I think I have enough time for one more, right? We're good in the back? I have time for one more. And this is just a little bit of a walk and talk. And if you know Business Central and how its infrastructure is built, it is in the cloud. It is a SaaS product, and we do not have access direct to the database, which makes it challenging. This is something coming out in the fall. We don't have it yet, unless it's already the fall when you're watching this, but we don't have it just yet as of today. But I know for sure that this is going to change your world. If you want to build your own query, that feature is coming this fall, set to release in Business Central in October. It is a power app that lives within Business Central that you call upon, and you pick tables and you can build relationships right within Business Central. Give it your own name. It's called Smart List Designer. So it will create those custom views for you. They even have their own specific number range for those who are familiar with the objects. So incredible, probably one of the most impressive advances, features that I've seen. I'm just real excited to tell the entire world about it. And that is coming this fall. Check it out. There's an example of one that I actually built, and I combined those tables, those 4 different tables, to get sort of my own cost of goods sold list. I absolutely love it. Be on the lookout for that to be released this fall. Learn lots of cool new things from Business Central every single day. So be sure to check that out in the fall. You're going to love it. I absolutely know it. That is our last and final life hacks for today. I want to thank you all for participating and joining in on my session here at DynamicsCon 2020, the very first one, the inaugural one. I'm so privileged to be a part of it. Thank you for everyone who voted for me. I hope you learned something. Feel free to visit me at lifehacks365.com and send me a message if I can help you at all.